Guys able to hear me okay?
We can hear you.
Thank you. I'm going to give people just a couple more minutes here to get connected. It looks as if we have 10 members present, and want to make sure everybody always mutes unless you're going to speak. And if you've got a speaker on, it's probably wise to separate other than your computer. Maybe you want to keep that turned down. I'll go ahead and call this meeting of the Committee on Corrections and Juvenile Justice to order. Kim, I'll help you out with attendance. I've got an ongoing list here. I think we're rapidly approaching everyone. And to start out with, committee, I want to say that I appreciate your flexibility. We are facing numerous unusual challenges, exhibited here today by essentially having a remote meeting out of necessity. And we've certainly had some technology problems leading up to this, but I think as we grow more accustomed to using the technology, that many of those issues are being ironed out and we'll be able to conduct this. So we're really going back to kind of work of last week that normally would be done at our first meeting. I'm going to hold on the committee rules issue for the moment and just move on to committee introductions. And first, as you all know, those who have served on this committee in the past, we've had a change with our committee assistants. We now have Kim Sage as our committee assistant. And Kim, you may not have planned on being put on the spot, but if you could, for a moment, you might just introduce yourself to the committee briefly and visit about whatever you'd like to visit about your experience and that sort of thing. So please proceed.
Yeah, this is my third year with the legislature, but it's my first year as a committee assistant. So I'm really glad to be here.
And we are thrilled. You're going to need to speak a little closer to the microphone, probably.
It's quite a challenge. But, I'm sure we get past some of these bumps, it'll all be good.
And just for clarification for the committee, it is the work that's quite the challenge, not the committee chair. Is that right?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay, good. That's good to know. Thanks, Kim. Appreciate it. We're very happy to have you join us. And committee, Kim will help you, of course, as much as she can. There is a bit of a learning curve with all of this, but I think she's picked it up quickly and will be in good shape. Move on now to introductions of our professional staff, beginning with the revisers. And Jason, you want to go first? Feel free to introduce yourself.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Jason Thompson. I'm a senior assistant revisor in the Office of Revisor of Statutes. This is my 15th session. Happy to be with the committee again.
And Natalie?
Thanks, Mr. Chairman. I am Natalie Scott. I'm an assistant revisor with the Office of Revisor of Statutes. This is my 9th session. It's my 8th session on this committee, so I am happy to be back.
Thank you, Natalie. Jordan, from the research department.
Thanks, Mr. Chair. Jordan Milholland, Legislative Research Department. I'm a senior research analyst with KLRD. This is my 5th session on the committee. And in addition to this committee, I'm also staffing the Joint Committee on Corrections and Juvenile Justice Oversight and the Criminal Justice Reform Commission.
And Meredith from research.
Hi, I'm Meredith Fry. This is my first session and my first time on this committee, and I'm happy to help however I can.
Meredith, welcome aboard. Committee, certainly the other, the revisers and research folks that we have are really among the best those departments have to offer. We appreciate their work. You should understand that they are there to assist you and support you in gaining information when it comes to the legislative research and bill drafting and amendments when it comes to the revisor's office. And both departments are there for your benefit to support you, and I encourage you to utilize them, but to also be judicious in your use of them, particularly at the front end of the session. They are, at least in the revisor's office, pretty swamped at this point drafting bills. And as we begin to work bills and have amendments offered, you're going to find them to be an invaluable resource. So we thank them for their work and appreciate it very much. We'll move on now to individual committee member introductions. I'd just like you to let us know a little bit about yourself, maybe your professional background, career, and start with Vice Chair Owens.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Stephen Owens, representative for the 74th. I have spent 20 plus years working within the criminal justice system on pre and post trial release defendants, amongst other entrepreneurial endeavors. So thoroughly enjoy being able to serve on this committee. Thank you.
And we'll move on to ranking order member Representative Heiberger.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This is my 7th year as ranking the on this committee, 7th year in the legislature. I represent the 46th district, which is basically the east side of Lawrence, and I am an attorney by profession. And always enjoy working with the chairman.
Thank you, Representative Heiberger. Representative Patton.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Fred Patton. I represent the 50th district, which is primarily northern Shawnee County, but a strip of the county along the western edge. This is my 7th year in the legislature, my 3rd year on this committee, and most of the time I enjoy working with the chair.
I'll thank you a bit less than Representative Heiberger. Representative Smith.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm Eric Smith. I'm in the 76th district, which is about 1 hour south of Topeka, Burlington. I also represent part of Lyon and Osage County. I have about 19 years in law enforcement. This is my 1st year as the undersheriff of Coffee County, my 5th session in this committee and one of my favorite committees, and mostly because of the chair. Thank you.
Representative Carmichael.
Hello, my name's John Carmichael. I'm the state representative from the 92nd District in Wichita. Commencing my 8th year in our legislature, the 3rd year on your committee, and I've been practicing law since August the 2nd of 1982. Thank you.
Representative Resman.
I'm John Resman, and I represent the 121st District, which is the west side of Olathe and Lenexa. I'm a retired deputy sheriff from Johnson County, and this is my 3rd year on the committee.
Representative Keither.
Good afternoon. I'm Representative Annie Keither from Central Topeka. I think this is my 4th or 5th year on the committee. I can't remember. And I've been in the legislature serving Topeka for 25 years.
Thank you. Representative Carpenter.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is my 1st year on the Corrections Committee. I'm the representative for District 81, which is the north part of Derby and McConnell Air Force Base. I have, in the private sector, I work as a contractor for aviation companies and just recently joined the military a few months ago. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you for your service, sir. Representative Day.
Hi, everybody. Can everybody hear me? Good. Okay. Hi, I am a freshman legislator from South Overland Park, District 48. My name is Jennifer Day. I'm really grateful to be assigned to this committee. My background is actually in real estate right now, and have worked in the past for Sprint and several other corporations. So looking forward to seeing what I can bring to this committee. Thank you so much, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Representative, and welcome, Representative Potter.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. My name is Samantha Potter. My district is District 6, which is most of Miami County, including Paola and Lewisburg and some townships surrounding. My background is actually political science and communications. Worked in communications for 5 years for a state agency. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and welcome to you. Representative French, I don't see him on here. Representative French, are you here? He is not. Representative Wheeler, are you on? And I don't see him either. So I'm Russ Jennings. I represent the 122nd District. That's far western Kansas. Your choice, western Kansas or eastern Colorado Springs. We're pretty much the same thing in some ways. I've been on this committee since I began in the legislature. This is starting my 9th year. I've chaired this committee the last 4 years, and I have a career involving a lot of work in criminal justice in a number of ways, and particularly a focus on juvenile justice in the latter part of my career. So I'm happy and honored to be able to continue to serve as chairman of this committee. I would say this committee in the past has been quite productive. It's a good group of folks who I think work well together, and we've taken on a lot of big tasks. And this year, the fruit of some of our past labor is going to be realized as we receive reports from the Kansas Criminal Justice Reform Commission, Kansas Judicial Council on registration matters for offenders, and of course the Kansas Sentencing Commission, who always brings a wheelbarrow full of bills for us to consider. We'll be hearing from them later today. We've already had a presentation from Scott Schultz, but there's a lot of moving parts, and there's a lot of work to be done this year. I will try to honor your time. I'll try to make sure our time is as productive as it can be. Given the format that we're utilizing today, it's a change, but business across the state and across the nation have made this very same change over the last 9 months, and I think they're finding it useful and productive, and hopefully we will have the same experience. on this committee. So with that, I'll say Representative French and Wheeler can introduce themselves the next time. We'll give them a couple moments. And I would like to move on to committee rules. I sent out to you a draft committee rule document, seems like ages ago now. It had highlighted within it changes from prior years. Most of those changes really related to the use of technology and advanced thought in terms of how we might manage these meetings and meet the requirements of open meetings and the ability to discern voting. Let's face it, having everybody say aye or no on this kind of format, not being in the committee room, is really not, it can be done. I would contemplate calling roll, not for recorded vote purposes, but rather to be sure we understand how people are voting and we can count votes. There are members of the committee who I know from my past experience will want each of their votes recorded, whether it's on an amendment or on a bill. If there are such members who will routinely want their vote recorded in the minutes of the committee, I'd ask that you let us know now, and we will always have that happen. And then everyone has the ability to ask for that kind of documentation on each vote if they choose to. I see that Representative Heiberger and Representative Carmichael, Representative Owens, all three indicating that they wish to have their votes recorded on each occasion. Kim, I'd ask that you make note of that and assure that we see that those votes are recorded. Otherwise, committee, when we do work, when we take a vote, I will inquire. This just keeps those three from having to say each and every time that they would like their vote required, and that might help move things along a little bit. So on to the committee rules. Are there any questions or concerns about the committee rules draft that was circulated to the membership in advance of today's meeting? I see no one wishing to be acknowledged. Would it then be fair to say the committee is comfortable enough with the rules that we should just proceed to adopt those rules and apply them to ourselves during the next couple of years? Anyone object to that? Seeing no objection, the committee rules will be adopted and we will govern our work according to those rules. I thank you, committee, for getting this piece of work done. There you go. That's our first piece of work for the session. Hopefully it will not be our last. I will move on now to requests for bill introductions. I've not heard from anyone outside of the legislature, but I would ask, are there any committee members who wish to offer for introduction a bill? Are there any thoughts by committee members that about the possibility of restricting smoking during committee meetings? Apparently not. Okay, that's good. So no bill introductions. I think then we will go on to hearing on House Bill 2028. For our new members, since this is your maiden voyage, the typical process is the chair will inquire of the reviser to explain what this bill purports to do. We then will hear proponent testimony. We will hear neutral testimony if there is any, and we will hear any opponent testimony. Testimony can be delivered in writing only if any of those persons wish to do so, or they may appear, in this case, virtually before the committee to offer oral testimony. It's my understanding, and from what I see in my email, that both a copy of the bill, the fiscal note, I think, is attached, perhaps. Let me look here. We've got a fiscal note with the bill, and on all bills, you will be provided a fiscal note that lets you know if this law were to be adopted, what the fiscal impact to the state might be. There's a bill brief. That is a statement by the revisers of the content of the bill. You have received a Kansas Sentencing Commission bed impact statement on all bills that come through our committee that would have a potential impact on prison bed space. You will receive a report from the Kansas Sentencing Commission letting us know what the impact is, positive or negative. And then there are three testimonies also attached to the email. We will be hearing from Scott Schultz. It is my understanding that the other two conferees in support of the bill, Steve Kearney with the Kansas County and District Attorneys Association, and Jessica Glendenning with the Defense Bar, are going to be written testimony only. So with that, I'll open the hearing on House Bill 2028, call upon the reviser to inform the committee as to what this bill will do if adopted.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. House Bill 2028 would raise the felony loss threshold for certain property crimes. So current law sets that felony loss threshold for most of the property crimes at $1,000. A few years ago now, you guys raised the felony loss threshold in theft to $1,500. And so this bill would bring all the other property crimes, theft of property mislaid or delivered by mistake, criminal damage to property, giving a worthless check, counterfeiting, criminal use of a financial card, impairing a security interest, Medicaid fraud, official misconduct, presenting a false claim, misuse of public funds, and criminal desecration. It would take all those that are currently at $1,000 and bring them up to the $1,500 limit to match that of theft. And I can take any questions.
Committee, any questions for the reviser? Representative Carpenter.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm not sure if my virtual hand showed on your screen or not, so I appreciate that. Question to the reviser: when was the original statute passed, and how long has it been set at $1,000?
So this bill purports to change a lot of those crimes. So I'm not sure exactly the year that all of those crimes came to place and it was put at $1,000. I can go back and look at that to see the last time that it was changed. But let me just look at theft here real quick so I can tell you when theft was increased. That went to $1,500 in 2016. So I can go back and research when the $1,000 limit was put into place.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Representative. And Natalie, if you would just make sure when the time comes, if we're working this bill, that we have that information. Any other questions? And I did see your virtual hand, Representative Carpenter, and your real one too. All right, we will move on then to proponent testimony on House Bill 2028, and we'll call upon Scott Schultz with the Kansas Sentencing Commission. Good afternoon, Scott. Welcome virtually to the committee.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Members of the committee, can you hear me okay? Okay, great. Well, thank you. On behalf of, my name again is Scott Schultz, with Executive Director with the Sentencing Commission, and we are testifying in favor of this particular bill. I will channel famed legendary Yankees coach Yogi Berra in saying that this bill is basically deja vu all over again. We have had this bill in front of the committee for I would suggest at least 3 times, and maybe a fourth. But this committee has passed out this particular bill every single time. And we also have, as you'll note in my testimony, the recommendation of the Reform Commission as well to corroborate what a great bill this is. So as Natalie did a great job in discussing, this deals with 11 property bills, raising the threshold up to 1,500 from 1,000. Just from historical, and hopefully Representative Carpenter, this will help you. As far as theft is concerned, we were back at, we raised that threshold from $500 to $1,000 in 2004. And then in 2016, then that threshold was raised from 1,000 to 1,500. In 2018, the Attorney General brought forth a request to increase the threshold to 1,500 for mistreatment of a dependent adult, and that was increased at that particular time that year. So essentially what this is, and the Reform Commission would tell you the same thing. It's a proportionality bill. Usually when we are looking at sentencing guidelines for felonies, we're looking at proportionality in some cases. The Reform Commission was given that task to look at places where we could look at proportional things. I am serving on the Sentencing Proportionality Subcommittee of the Reform Commission, as well as our position from the Sentencing Commission's position as well. But as I indicated in my testimony, there are certainly several goals that can be accomplished with this particular bill. This allows for Pew had done a study back in 2016 that surveyed 28 states and that had raised their felony theft thresholds from 2001 to 2011. And what they found was raising those thresholds had no impact on the overall property crime or larceny rates. The states that increased their thresholds reported roughly the same average decrease in crime as 22 states that didn't change their theft laws. So there wasn't any increase in crime. Also, the value that some states set as far as their thresholds, whether that be 500, 1,000, or 2,000 even in some states, there was no correlation with property crime and larceny rates there. So, and again, Kansas was included in that. I've included that chart in my testimony for your consumption. Another item for consideration or goals that this accomplishes when some of these crimes are, so if what you're looking at now is those crimes that are going to be between 1,000 and 1,500 would now be considered to be misdemeanors. And in that particular case, it does give the district court an opportunity to have a little bit more discretion with those cases. They don't have to follow a sentencing guidelines. And so with that particular crime of theft, which would be an A misdemeanor, you're looking at the court can sentence up to a year in the county jail. So it does give them a little bit more flexibility in sentencing than it would be in the context of a low misdemeanor or the low felony, excuse me. One of the consequences, certainly with getting a felony conviction in this or any other situation, is that those offenders receiving those convictions certainly are now going to have employment issues as well as housing issues. Their selection obviously goes down quite a bit when you do have a felony conviction. And so making this a misdemeanor would also prevent or allow the individuals to vote as well as possess firearms. Again, not too much of a bed savings itself, but again, this is more based upon looking at raising those other 11 property offenses up to where we already have felony theft and mistreatment of a dependent adult. So with that, again, ask your support, and I would stand for any questions that any of you have.
Thank you, Scott. Representative Carmichael, you have a question. you are muted. It's a condition that we don't find offensive, but you want to be heard, you'll need to change.
Can you hear me now? I see the frowns, apparently. Okay. Mr. Schultz, some of us may consider crimes committed by public officials to be of a different character than crimes that are committed by common thieves. And if someone were inclined to exclude the crimes of official misconduct and misuse of public funds from this bill so as to retain the financial limitations for those scoundrels at $1,000, what impact would that have on the 2 beds that we're going to save, or are we able to know?
Representative, yes. I will tell you from it looks like, and what I will tell you for all of the committee's purposes, what you're going to probably see a lot of in the bed space impacts, just so that you aren't starting to question things, is we're probably going to be using a lot of the FY 2019 numbers, because obviously FY 20 has been a super anomaly. And so to give you the best idea of where we're looking at things, it's probably you're going to see a lot of FY 19 stuff. But to your question, representatives, we would have, for example, we had 2 convictions in 19 of misuse of public funds. We had, I'm trying to think, it doesn't even look like we even had any other convictions for the other crime. So those type of crimes, as well as election-related crimes, there are not a lot of felonies that we receive, if any, every year.
And if I might follow up, Mr. Chairman, my guess is that neither of those 2 scoundrels went to jail, and so it probably didn't affect the impact, the bed impact. On the other hand, if all of the bed impact is attributable to letting public officials go, then I might view this legislation differently. Do we know how many public officials went to jail and impacted the bed impact for 2019?
I could, Representative Carmichael, I could find that out. My sense is that because of the severity levels of the offenses and probably the lack of criminal history for these folks, the likelihood is probably they did get probation.
Well, and Mr. Schultz, my presumption intuitively is that that's the case, and I don't know that it's worth your effort. I'm going to presume that if we were to continue to set a lower bar for public officials, that it would probably have a negligible impact on the bed impact statement. If you should hear to the contrary, please let me know. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Representative. Vice Chair Owens.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. A couple of questions for you, Scott. One, do we have any idea how many people were charged with felony theft that were ultimately pled down to a misdemeanor because of the threshold where it's currently set?
We would not know that at this time. We are getting to a point where we may be able to know that in the future, but we don't have that information at this time to know as far as what the original charge was and then what it was pled down to. We're currently working with OJA, who has that data, to be able to discern that. And sometimes those things, it's taken a little bit longer than I would hope, but we have to certainly cooperate with them as far as trying to get our systems working together. So, but we don't have that information. I'm sorry.
All right. Do you have any idea where we stand currently as compared to other states? I mean, are we a higher threshold than other states? Lower? Any idea comparison wise?
I could get you that. The link that I have on there, as far as the Pew link, is will take you to an article that specifically has those states in there that have those thresholds.
Okay.
And I can, if you'd like me to send that out, I can, and it could be sent out to the committee, or you can just follow that link, whichever you prefer.
We'll just follow that link. Thank you for pointing that out. I'll certainly take a look at that. Finally, going from 1,000 to 1,500. I mean, is that really just inflation adjustment more than anything else? I mean,
to some extent, it is. I even included a consumer price index calculator in my testimony for you. If you want to click on that and actually go there and look at those from the time periods, and it really is. It's approaching almost $1,500 if you look at even if you go back and look at when it was first changed. But we would have to go back and look to see, for example, on each one of these 11, when the statute was changed to 1,000 before. But, you can get an idea of whether it's 1989, I think is what I put in my testimony, to even going back to 2000. The price of things obviously is different than it is now. And so that's why I indicated that with that calculator in there.
All right. Thank you, Scott. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
You're welcome.
Committee, other questions? Representative Carmichael. Or I'm sorry, Carpenter. Sorry about that.
Go.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think. So I'm trying to review all the testimony and stuff here real quick, and if I've missed this, feel free to let me know. Between 1,000 and 1,500, those price points, how many people fall within those 2 points? So are we? So we're going to say bed space and that kind of stuff. Do you have a number that you think we might save on?
Yeah, that's a great question. If you go to the Sentencing Commission's impact statement, we look at, as far as the savings are concerned, we're looking at those that were sentenced to prison. We have, what it appears anyway, that there was 13 people that were sentenced to prison with a restitution sentencing range from $361 clear up to $186,000. With 4 of them were less than $1,500, including 2 that were less than 1,000. So that gives you an idea of how many people are going to be falling into that range.
Okay, it's on page 3 of your testimony here.
Yes.
Right. Okay. Yep. Thank you.
Other questions, committee, for Mr. Schultz? Representative Smith.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Schultz, I would just add in there and see what your thoughts on this. I mean, a lot of this would depend on what their criminal history is. You don't see a lot of folks who show up for the first time with a $1,200 theft going to prison. So your beds are really impacted by those folks who are returned customers. Isn't that right?
Yes.
Committee, any other questions? Seeing none, Mr. Schultz, thank you very much for your testimony today. Appreciate it.
You're welcome. Thank you so much.
Again, committee, I remind you that the testimony of Steve Kearney with the County and District Attorneys Association and the testimony from the Kansas Association of Criminal Defense Lawyers, Jessica Glendenning. Both have submitted written testimony, was included in your email, and I commit that testimony to you for your consideration. Are there any others with proponent testimony today? I see none. Any neutral testimony? I know of none and see no one raising their hand. And anyone with testimony in opposition? There's no opposition testimony submitted or offered here today. We'll close the hearing on House Bill 2028 and we'll return to that order of business of committee introductions. I see that both Representative Wheeler, at least Representative Wheeler's chair, and evidently Representative French have arrived. So Representative French, we offered members an opportunity to just provide a little introduction about themselves a bit earlier. Would you like to do so, please? Let us know a little bit about you and introduce yourself to the committee. And in case you are speaking, you are muted, so you'll have to unmute. Oh.
Representative French.
Good afternoon.
There you go. There you go. You got it. Go ahead, Representative French. Please offer an introduction of yourself.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yes, I'm David French. I'm the state representative for District 40, which includes the town of Leavenworth and Lansing, and also includes the Lansing Corrections Facility. And I've been on the committee now. This is my third year. I've been in the legislature going on my third year. And this is one of my favorite committees. So thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Representative. Welcome back. Representative Wheeler, able to hear me? And if you are, we'd love to have you occupy your chair and introduce yourself. I don't think we'll ask Representative Wheeler, but we'll give him a chance at some point in time in the future to introduce himself. Committee, just for your an update for you. Thursday's meeting, we had 2 hearings scheduled. I'm going to cancel Thursday's meeting for the committee. I believe it's quite possible from information I've been provided that our time on the floor may extend into our committee hearing time, and I'd rather people know now, particularly those that might wish to testify or submit testimony. We will reschedule those bills likely for next week. We do intend to proceed tomorrow with hearings on House Bill 2027, House Bill 2026. Once again, that will be a virtual only meeting, so we will convene the meeting in this format. Does anyone else have any questions or need any clarification at this point? I don't see anybody raising their hand, so with that, we will adjourn the committee. I thank you for your participation, and we'll talk tomorrow. Oh, Representative Smith. Okay. Representative Wheeler? There you are. While you're here, if you'll unmute yourself, I would afford you an opportunity to introduce yourself to the committee members.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm John Wheeler. I represent District 123, which is entirely within the corporate city limits of Garden City. I apologize for being late in this meeting. I had trouble with sign-in, and I'm sorry that I had to walk away because I have noticed from the city that there's a leak, a water leak in my house. So I'm talking to the plumber. And that's all you need to know about me at this time. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you, Representative Wheeler. I guess since your substitute plumber's also in Topeka, you had to call somebody really that can do that stuff, huh? All right. Well, with that, I will go ahead and adjourn the meeting. Again, thank you all for your attendance and participation. We'll see you tomorrow.